Next, on Currents News, a big boost for the pro-life movement, what President Trump promised those attending the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. Then Brooklyn's own Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg lying in repose at the Supreme Court, eulogized by her fellow jurists. The grand jury indicts only one officer involved in the killing of Breonna Taylor, but not for murder. And we also have this.
One teenager set out to do the impossible, open up a business during the pandemic. Her secret to success, putting it all in God's hands. I'm Jessica Easthope, and that's ahead.
Plus, the Brooklyn Diocese is where my story began, and now I'm back here with some very exciting news to share with all of you. Currents News starts right now.
Our nation is strong because of Catholics and all people of faith.
President Trump speaking at the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast in a pre-recorded address today, highlighting his commitment to pro-life issues and promising a new action. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. At today's prayer breakfast, the president announced that he was issuing an executive order that would require medical care be given to babies who survive an abortion. Currents News' Emily Druby has more.
And I will always defend the sacred right to life.
A big win for the pro-life movement coming today from President Donald Trump.
I will be signing the Born Alive executive order to ensure that all precious babies born alive, no matter their circumstances, receive the medical care that they deserve.
The president making the announcement during the 16th annual National Catholic Prayer Breakfast held virtually because of the pandemic. Details on the executive order weren't immediately available, but it will protect babies born prematurely, including those who survive an abortion.
And the eternal truth that every child, born and unborn, is made in the holy image of God.
It will also increase federal funding for neonatal research. The president also applauding the Catholic Church for their charity and generosity towards others, specifically mentioning what he saw at a church he grew up next to, likely Immaculate Conception Church in Jamaica Estates.
And I saw how much incredible work the Catholic Church did for our community. These are amazing people.
Also during the event, Attorney General William Barr was awarded the Christofidellis Lacey Award, given to someone who increases the tenets and teachings of the Catholic Church. Barr, who is Catholic, used his speech to defend religion's role in America.
Separation of church and state does not mean, and never did mean, separation of religion and civics.
Attorney General Barr himself came under fire for being given the award. Many people and organizations of faith, such as the Association of U.S. Catholic Priests, have voiced concern over Barr receiving the honor, as he recently directed the Federal Bureau of Prisons to execute prisoners on death row for the first time since 2003. During his speech, Barr did not address the critics. The keynote address was given by Auxiliary Bishop Robert Barron of Los Angeles. He encouraged Catholics to bring their faith into the public forum.
Resist the temptation to privatize the faith, but rather bring your evangelized self into the public forum.
Adding, a privatized religion is bad for both religion and democracy. Emily Druby, Currents News.
On the heels of the award controversy, Attorney General William Barr greenlit 2 lethal injections this week. Yesterday, death row inmate William LaCroix was executed. The 50-year-old was convicted in 2004 for the carjacking, rape, and murder of a 30-year-old female nurse. Tomorrow, the first black person will face the death penalty under the Trump administration. 5 other people have died from lethal injection so far this year. U.S. bishops collectively called on the AG and President Trump to stop federal executions. They strongly believe that as the church, we must give concrete help to victims of violence, and we must encourage the rehabilitation and restoration of those who commit violence. Accountability and legitimate punishment are a part of this process. We say to President Trump and Attorney General Barr, enough. Stop these executions. Protecting human life from conception to natural death is also a high point of concern for Catholic voters. More than 8 in 10 likely Catholic voters favor restrictions on abortion. That's according to a new poll by the Real Clear Opinion Research. Breaking down those numbers, 31% of people thought abortion should only be allowed in cases of rape, incest, or to save the life of the mother. 21% favored it during the first 3 months of pregnancy, and 15% thought it should never be permitted at all. That same poll found an overwhelming number of Catholics are concerned about the number of attacks on churches in recent months. That's at 83%. Multiple Catholic statues have been desecrated across the country. Images of Jesus and Mary smashed, decapitated, and graffitied. Commentators in the poll worry the attacks are a part of a rise in anti-Christian views. Now to Louisville, Kentucky, where police and protesters clashed after a grand jury indicted a former detective in the case of Breonna Taylor, but not for murder. Brett Hankison is facing 3 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment but only for shooting into neighboring apartments during the nighttime raid back in March. 2 other officers were not charged at all. Following the indictment, Kentucky's Attorney General said the 2 other officers were justified in their use of force after Kenneth Walker, Taylor's boyfriend, fired first.
Justice is not often easy. It does not fit the mold of public opinion, and it does not conform to shifting standards. It answers only to the facts and to the law. With this in mind, we must now ask ourselves, where do we go from here?
Cameron also said the FBI crime lab determined that 6 bullets struck Breonna Taylor. He also vowed to vigorously prosecute the criminal charges. If convicted, Hankison could get up to 5 years for each count. Family, friends, and her fellow justices said goodbye to Ruth Bader Ginsburg today. Her body now lying in repose on the steps of the Supreme Court. The former justice will remain at the top court until Friday, where she will then become the first woman and Jewish person to lie in state at the nation's capital. But today, a tribute to the legendary life and lasting legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg by the court she spent more than 30 years serving. Camila Bernal reports.
For the final time, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg returning to the Supreme Court.
Among the words that best describe Ruth, tough, brave, a fighter, a winner, but also thoughtful, careful, compassionate, honest.
An army of more than 100 of her former clerks stood watch over her casket, some taking it up the stone steps leading to the Great Hall, where the liberal icon presided for almost 30 years.
She will live on in what she did to improve the law and the lives of all of us. And yet, still, Ruth is gone, and we grieve.
Politicians and the public paying their respects.
She was a fighter for all women.
But on Capitol Hill, Republicans quickly working to fill Justice Ginsburg's seat before the election, and Democrats already vowing retaliation.
Everything is on the table.
This is a gigantic mistake and abuse of power.
Senators are strategizing over the open Supreme Court seat and pondering the person President Trump may pick.
The president's put forward a list of incredibly talented potential nominees, including Indiana's own Judge Amy Coney Barrett.
We have not had a Supreme Court justice from Florida. Barbara Lagoa is a qualified jurist.
The president will be at the Supreme Court Thursday, paying tribute to the legendary life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. In Washington, I'm Camila Bernal.
A bipartisan deal has been reached to avoid a government shutdown. After days of debate on the House floor between Republicans and Democrats, the bill was passed. It's a stopgap spending measure that funds the government through December 11th. The agreement will help farmers who are suffering from low commodity prices and the effects of higher tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. The legislation now heads to the Senate and is expected to be taken up within the next few days. There's a lot more news headed your way. We'll introduce you to the Brooklyn teen who opened her own business despite this pandemic and why she says she owes all of her success to God. And why words matter. We're talking to the priest who learned that his baptism was invalid because of wrong wording. And later, why it's a special day for me here at Currents News and how my professional and religious journey brought me back home to the Brooklyn Diocese.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/sendus, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
The coronavirus pandemic has made this a difficult year for business owners around the country. But one young entrepreneur actually opened up shop during the pandemic. She's putting her faith in God and herself that her store will survive. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has that story from East Flatbush.
Among the narrow aisles of stylish wigs and colorful products, Paris shines.
You want a drawstring?
Everything on the shelves needs to be perfect. She has big dreams as the new owner of Paris Beauty Supplies.
It's my baby. It's my prized possession. It goes off the shelf pretty fast.
There's no doubt the store is impressive, but it's nothing compared to its owner. Ready for the twist? Paris is 16, and she's never been afraid to roll up her sleeves.
My mom owns 2 businesses. I've seen her run the businesses, and I also helped assist her run these businesses, so I knew the ins and outs.
This is what I use in my salon.
Paris's mom, Seneca Thompson, owns 2 businesses that sit on either side of Paris's store on Church Avenue in East Flatbush. Seneca says she's carefree because she knows her daughter can handle this responsibility.
Ma, I got this. That's her keyword. So when she want to open it, I said, Paris, you sure you could do this? She said, Ma, I got this.
In the store, it's easy to forget Paris is a teenager, but if you watch closely, you'll see the signs.
There you go.
She opened in August as businesses around her were drowning due to the pandemic. For the average teenager, the store might be a major distraction from schoolwork.
My Delta Math pre-calc work.
But not for Paris. She's a straight-A student.
I have to multiply binomials and
takes
stuff.
classes at Hunter College and just skipped a grade.
It actually helped me focus more on school because I didn't want to go away from my true passion in medicine.
When asked how she juggles it all, her answer is simple.
It's always been all him. I can't really do anything without God.
Faith was a foundation of Paris's upbringing.
I trust God. And I brought the kids them in the church also to trust God.
And her trust in God will forever be a big part of her growth and success.
It's not too big.
Though she's young, Paris knows there are some things you can't put a price on. In East Flatbush, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
6 neighborhoods in Brooklyn and Queens are seeing an uptick in the number of COVID cases. According to Mayor Bill de Blasio, cases are up in Flatbush, Borough Park, Williamsburg, and Midwood in Brooklyn, and Kew Gardens and Far Rockaway in Queens. The city will now focus on those areas, reminding people to wear a mask and socially distance. Top Vatican official Cardinal Luis Tagle has recovered from COVID. The Philippines Pontifical College in Rome making that announcement today. Cardinal Tagle tested positive for the virus after arriving in his Archdiocese of Manila on September 10th. He then underwent strict isolation for 13 days. The Pontifical College, where he stayed in Rome, also quarantined and tested their priests and staff. They were all negative. Devotees around the world celebrated the feast day of St. Padre Pio today. At St. Finbar Church in Bath Beach, Brooklyn, parishioners bowing and kissing the hand of the beloved Italian friar. Padre Pio is known for having the stigmata, holes in his hands, feet, and side resembling those of Christ. The saint is often attributed for producing miracles for those who ask for his intercession. For most of us who have received our holy sacraments, we trust that the celebrant performed the ceremonies correctly and as intended by God. But for one priest in Detroit, after watching a video of his own baptism, he soon realized that his sacraments he assumed to be true were invalid by one misspoken word. Father Matt Hood from the Archdiocese of Detroit joins us to tell us about his experience with his baptism blunder. And first of all, Father Matt, what was your reaction when you heard your baptism wasn't valid, and because of that, neither was your ordination?
Yeah, it was very shocking when I first found out. The Vatican Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith put out their clarification. And just recently, before that, I saw my baptism video, so I knew what was said. And it was the range of emotions. You know, at first it was sadness, confusion, feeling alienated. I've been a priest for 3 years. I thought I was a priest for 3 years. But it was very quickly alleviated because the Archbishop and the Archdiocese of Detroit worked really quickly to remedy the situation. So that was a huge consolation for me.
Wow. So you said you realized this when your father sent you an old home video of your baptism during the pandemic. And while watching it, you realized that the deacon said the words "we baptize" instead of the correct "I baptize." And it's interesting because if you remember in 2009, President Obama had to take the oath of office a second time because a word was out of sequence the first time. So it's not just Catholic ceremonies. Why are words so important?
Words are important because we know there's a big difference between someone saying "I love you" versus "I don't love you." You know, we can imagine how important that is. And when it comes to the sacraments, the words that we use inform what we believe. So when you say "we baptize," it's not so much that it was just a mistake, but it changes what we believe about baptism, because it's Christ who baptizes. When a priest baptizes and he says, "I baptize," it's really Christ saying that through him. This is Jesus. So the words inform what we believe. And when we say "we baptize," then it's no longer Christ who baptizes, but it's the community. And it's not Christian baptism.
Right. And now you discovered the mistake because you had video evidence. Some people may not have videos of their baptisms, so they may never know. What do you suggest people do to find out if this happened to them? Because like we were saying earlier, with a priest, it's not their intention to do this. It's no fault of the babies, you know, and in God's eyes, is it still valid?
So my whole situation shouldn't be a reason for anyone to have any anxiety about their own situation. If you do have a video of your baptism and you're interested in watching it, that's great. But it's not a reason for greater concern. You know, God, in his providence, the vast majority of all baptisms are valid. And if there's evidence that we are aware of that it wasn't valid, then we can act on it. But it's not a reason for concern otherwise.
All right, so what about the other babies who were baptized along with you? Did you get in touch with them, or even the deacon who performed your baptism? And what about the ceremonies and sacraments you celebrated? Are they valid?
So I haven't been in touch with the deacon, but there were about around over 700 baptisms that this would have affected.
Wow.
And the Archdiocese has reached out to them, and they're working to remedy the situation as quickly as possible. For my ministry, since I wasn't a validly ordained priest, all of the sacraments that I celebrated, ironically, except for baptism, were invalid. So they've had to be redone. I did a few confirmations, and those have already been remedied. And for the marriages, those are already in the process. Most of those are already remedied.
All right, Father Matt Hood, thanks for sharing your experience with us.
Of course, God bless.
Today marks a special anniversary for American Catholics. On this day, 5 years ago, the Holy Father arrived for his first trip to the United States. Francis landed in Washington and then traveled through New York and Philadelphia. The 5-day venture included masses, meeting with dignitaries and church leaders, and massive crowds. The Holy Father later remarked on the plane ride home he was surprised by the warmth of Americans. Still to come on Currents News, I'm very excited that my career has brought me back home to the Brooklyn Diocese. And right after the break, I have some very exciting personal news to share with you. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's a special day for me here at Currents News. As journalists, we try hard to keep our personalities out of stories, but this time I've made a little news of my own. I've just been named the permanent host of our newscast. Tonight, Jessica Easthope has my story, how I got into this anchor chair and how I started out right here in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
Right from the heart of the Diocese of Immigrants, meet Queens native Christine Persichetti.
Yeah, definitely. Local girl makes good. We're so happy.
With her soulful laugh and joyful outlook, she's a rock-solid journalist with years of experience and the bona fides that make her the perfect choice to be the new face of Currents News.
I'm so proud to work at Currents News. I was really happy to continue my career here, especially being in the Brooklyn Diocese from where I'm from, and I've really enjoyed working with everybody at Currents News. It's a smaller staff, but everybody puts in double the work, and they put out such a great product that everybody can be proud of.
Christine is a lifelong Catholic, the product of years of solid Catholic education that began at St. Rita's Parish in Long Island City, where she sang in the children's choir, played on their softball team, and attended camp in the summer. A powerful bond that continues to this day.
I used to tutor the girls here in high school.
After graduating from St. Francis Prep, she received her undergraduate degree from the University of Albany and a master's from the New York Institute of Technology, a launching pad into television news.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, October 28th. I'm Christine Persichetti. I was so excited to get that first job in TV news and not to be that far from home. It was nice. It was about a 4-hour drive from Queens, which was great. And it was a place where everybody was just out of college and we can make our mistakes and learn from our mistakes. And it was also a place where there's not a lot going on. In Elmira, New York, you know, it's a small city, and so I learned to enterprise stories and really see what are the stories that the people who live in the community really care about.
At the ABC affiliate in Elmira, New York, she rose through the ranks to become the station's main anchor. It's also where she met her husband, Damien, before moving on to stints at Fox Rochester, Fox 5, and Fios 1 News.
What do you think?
I haven't tried anything yet, but I'm good.
Along the way, Christine and Damien had 3 boys, balancing their careers and a home life while still paying it forward.
Basically, this takes the place of regular pre-K.
Both she and her husband are marriage prep coordinators at St. Francis of Assisi in West Nyack. Her long and strong Catholic roots are now helping to keep the family and her new Currents News family on an even keel as we all navigate the choppy waters of an ongoing pandemic.
When I started at Currents News, I really had to hit the ground running. It was the beginning of the pandemic and there was work to be done. And it really showed me how important Catholic journalism is nowadays, especially how people's faith and the stories we're telling can really provide a source of comfort for everyone at home.
No justice, no peace.
A nation divided by everything from COVID concerns to partisan politics is making news from the Catholic perspective more important than ever, helping to heal that divide with facts and faith. So as Christine brings her years of experience to the faithful viewers of Net TV, it's official. Currents News and its Catholic audience are welcoming a top-notch journalist committed to Catholic journalism to helm its signature newscast.
And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time. That was so nice. I want to thank Jessica and our special projects producer, Franca Bratz, for working so hard on my story, even showing the embarrassing parts. I also want to thank the whole Currents News team for welcoming me. I've really enjoyed getting to know everyone here, and I can't wait to continue to get to know all of you. So together we can bring you the news you need from a Catholic perspective. And that is Currents News. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.